Audio test. Especially with the beach, and then we had to reschedule.
It wasn't just for her, it was like far.
The shirt top.
You can lunch, like swim on the ocean.
We were right there at it.
You should have seen us at the. Look, I'm getting my whole stuff.
Oh, and then the long drive.
It's like, it's blue, and then it's white right here, and then it has the stars. No, I was going through that.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
It's not still here.
They're so bad.
Well, you know how many times I've come small, like, look at
Well,
me,
it
and here's your
was
wife.
about an interview. Another hour.
Yes, yeah, later.
Oh, your nose.
He does
He's their assistant coach. Yeah, we'll have the coaches introduce him in just a moment.
Yeah, you're not getting left out.
Yeah, 'cause he's an assistant coach.
Yes, oh, yeah, 2 years running.
Yeah, 2 years, right.
He's probably coaching staff longer than Michelle.
Right. Fixed his hair for this now.
He's a real fancy fella.
I like that. I like that.
You should have worn your coaching shirt.
How does she wear a coaching shirt?
I know.
Oh, he's just. I said, oh my gosh, we're not. That's like angled, and then it turns into color.
Good. She's good, almost afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Cleveland School Board meeting, and we have visitors today, and we're glad to have you. Welcome, and come anytime. We love to have our citizens here at our meetings, and so we're gonna start, and I'm gonna start with a moment of silence, and then we're gonna stand for a pledge of allegiance, okay? So let's bow your heads, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, you have a consent agenda in front of you. Would anybody like to remove anything from consent? If not, I need a motion to approve.
We do need to field trip.
Oh, we gotta add the field trip.
You need to add that if you could.
Okay, we'll add that to consent. You all got the field trip, I guess this morning, yesterday? Okay,
So moved.
so motion from Tom, second from Charlie. All those in favor say aye. Aye, very good. Okay, we will go straight to director's update.
Okay, director's update. First of all, hello, everybody. It is so good to see people back in here again, and our dividers are down through the tables here, so good things. First of all, summer camps are underway, kindergarten through 8th grade. So elementary school started back with the summer camps the Monday right after school ended, and then middle school started this week. So we're very excited to see that. I've been out to visit some of those camps so far, and great things are happening. I walked over to Walls the other day, and they had students in there who were making new Crayola boxes out of their own creation. So just doing design thinking and extending the school year and working primarily in the world of English and math, but also doing STEAM things. They're doing physical education. We have the 4 Cs camp for, is this year 5?
Year 4 of it.
Year 4 for the 4Cs camp, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute, but really good things happening in schools as far as the summer programming that we have, and very grateful to the state for the funds to make that happen and to pay our staff to do all the great things that are going on. This week I've wrapped up all of the principal evaluations and director evaluations, so good time to sit down with all those members of the staff and go through just what's been an interesting year to say the least, but to highlight a lot of really positive things that are happening both in schools, but also at the district level. So that's always a meaningful time for me. Yesterday, we held meetings with Brian Templeton, our architect, looking at the Denning Center. Different department heads met with him in here, and we talked about their needs. So if the board decides eventually to go down to the Denning Center, make that a new central office, what would it look like? And we're in those beginning stages now of what would the design look like, what would the space need to be, what would all those features that would be needed there, and what would a redesign cost, and all the different pieces of that. So it's still very much infancy stage of looking at that, but I think we had a lot of positive comments, a lot of good things came out of those meetings yesterday. I appreciate Hal Taylor was here. He's probably out there. Hal Taylor and Ryan for helping to lead those sessions yesterday. Later today, you're going to hear about a new board policy. I know you've had time to look at that, dealing with school finances, and we're very excited to have Chuck Cagle, our attorney, that will be coming June 14th to lead training on school support organizations and what that looks like going forward under a new policy. So June 14th, that training will take place. We'll get you more details about that. If you'd like to come, you're welcome. All of our principals and any SSO leader from the schools will be invited to attend that training as well. So that'll be good stuff to learn. I did find out yesterday that Commissioner of Education, Dr. Penny Swin, will be visiting Cleveland Middle School, coming back again. Actually, she's been there, but June 17th at 11 a.m., she is coming to visit the 4C summer camp program and bringing local legislators. They're actually, she's doing bus tours this summer and bringing legislators to the schools, and they're going to be able to see the great things that are happening over summer that they have allowed to happen by passing those emergency rules and regulations and everything to fund the summer camp programs that are happening. So they're going to be coming. I have invited Mayor Brooks to come as well. You're welcome to come that day. It's 11 o'clock at the middle school. We'll probably just meet in the main office area, and we'll remind you about that. We have a lot of planning underway for next year. A lot of things are in motion. When the school year ends, it doesn't really end here. We go straight into planning mode for the upcoming school year, getting people in place. We have a lot of hiring going on. Of course, a certain individual in the room is moving into the ranks of central office from the middle school, and we're glad to have her joining us. Dr. Lane will be here. July 1 is the new date for her, and we'll be working diligently to fill that role. And we also have a supervisor of school nutrition that we're working on as well, and other programs or openings in the school buildings themselves. So a lot of things happening, a lot of things moving, but we also have a lot of people that are going to be taking vacations this summer, and they need to. Principals, staff here, others. So looking forward to seeing folks go away and relax and then come back ready to be back at it for next year. So that's my report for today.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Dr. Dyer? Well, all right, let's move on to the spotlight.
Okay, this is the fun stuff. Dr. Lane, you want to talk about softball?
I would love to.
I figured.
I would love to. I told him, I said, it's so exciting having kids in here.
Absolutely.
You know, it's fun having
Especially
students.
this group. They're a lot of fun.
They are a great group. They are a great group. Cleveland Middle School softball team won its first ever TMSAA softball state championship at Drakes Creek Park in Hendersonville on May the 22nd. Now, this is important. It's the first time in school history, but the first time in state history. The state just initiated a girls' state softball playoffs for middle school, and what we did at Cleveland Middle School is we decided we had to change our season so that we could compete in this state championship. And we decided, well, you better believe we want to. We want to do this. We want to be a part of this state championship. Erica Rogers, our head coach, was also voted Coach of the Year during that weekend in Nashville. And she said that, I'm going to give one of your quotes, all right?
Oh, that's fine. This is going to be interesting.
All right, because some of the parents are here with the quote. Coach Coach Erica Parker Rogers said, the girls and parents all bought into what we wanted to accomplish and how we wanted to accomplish it. And then she was named Coach of the Year. And when that happened, she said that was just icing on the cake. I'm so ecstatic that we brought the state trophy home to Cleveland and that we made all of Cleveland proud. Now, these girls did not quit. They played hard. They played with their heart. They played every game with high intensity. It was something special to be a part of. Now, it'll be sad when we say goodbye to some of our 8th graders, but we're a very young team. So we have 4 7th graders and 3 6th graders, and who knows what lies ahead for the future of Cleveland Middle School softball. We also, one of the things that this group is known for, not only are they known for their stellar playing on the field, being in the dugout and watching them in the dugout is fantastic.
They have some routines down.
Well, we thought maybe we could do one for you today, is that okay? Come on, girls, come on.
You didn't bring all boas, we didn't think that far.
Yeah, they didn't have the Ric Flair and the bows. Come on, come on. You can beat on this table.
I was gonna say, where's the percussion sticks?
Yeah, you can do this one. Come on, everybody, walk. This is your school board. They want here. Miss Robinson sit right up there in front of her. Come on, Mr. Hoggill, he is a sports guy from way back. Come over here, up here. Yes.
We'll help y'all yell.
Yes. Now, you can do this. Yeah, go over there.
You gotta start it.
All right. All right, now we know who starts it, right?
Who's got it? Who's starting it?
Oh, listen.
No.
Yes. Come on, you can do it. Come on.
You got this.
You got it. Let's go. Get up, Marge! Get up, Marge! You don't need a ticket, all you need is pride. So get up on the rail train and ride, ride, ride. Hey. Woo, woo! Woo, woo! Woo, woo! So these games are high energy.
Yes, they are.
Your coach, if you will stay here just for a moment and introduce your coaching staff and introduce the players, because we all want them recognized because we're so proud of them.
All right, guys, so yeah, this is a foxy little bunch, and we love it. So, and I can say that too, most of the teams that we played, they would kind of show up and they were older than us, and so they kind of were, I mean, they were taller than us, right? They were a little bit more mature looking than we were, and then they would come in and see us, and then, well, we would tell them, like, good job after the ball game, right? Like, we had a lot of fun. But so we'll just start in the front here. If you guys would step up and like, you can just say hello. So first and foremost, he's hiding, but Coach Jude here, he is, he's been on our coaching staff for 2 years. He is awesome. He gets in there and he gets the girls excited and pumped up. Sometimes he has to give them a little kick in the shorts, but it's fine. But he's awesome. He's in there cheering for us and everything else, and we just could not do it. At one point in time, we were losing one ball game, and everybody was like, "Where's Jude? Where's Coach Jude?" And we had to go find him, and we brought him back in, and we came from behind and won. So, Coach Jude. Coach Jude has a sister on the team. This is Macy Butler. She is our starting second baseman. If you guys will step over so I can kind of keep going. We have Riley Lancaster Burns. She's a 7th grader. Come on, keep going. Landry Nelson. Lily Smalls, her actual real last name is Mason, but I never remember that. Sophia Green, Abby Hazori, and one thing I want to say to you guys, Abby would be our most improved player all year long. All right, she didn't get to play in our first opening season tournament, right? She's like, no, I didn't. But then she went to be on our starting first baseman, and she made some very crucial plays in these last games in Hendersonville. And so I just want to say that in front of everybody. So way to go, Abby. We're proud of you. Oh, and then we've got Alyssa Davenport. She is in 8th grade. Emily Patterson is our 6th grade starting all the time pitcher. And then we have Miss Jemiah Hill. She's our other 8th grader, and we're going to miss them a lot. We have several girls that are also out of town. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see if I got them. Layla De Jesus is an 8th grader, and Carrie Hicks are both 8th graders, and they're not here with us today. Who? Kale Wheeler is a 6th grader. She starts in right field. She is not here with us today. She starts Oh yeah, she starts in left field. Yeah, you started in right field. Hey, she threw somebody out at first base in the state championship game. That was a big deal. Yeah, Kale starts in left field, and then Lainey Copeland is also a sixth grader, and she is our starting center fielder. Did I get everybody? Did I miss anybody? Then the other people, oh, of course, we have Michelle Bradley here. She is, this is her first year as an assistant coach in softball. And then my husband, Stephen Rogers, also is an assistant coach. And then we cannot have done this without our traveling athletic trainer, Sean Bovey. So he's at the Four Seas camp right now, teaching some STEM. So I think that's everybody. Did I miss anyone?
And I think that before they were leaving, we had a march through the school, and one of the pep talks they were given is, if you win this, we're gonna take you around and let people know about you and introduce you.
Yeah.
So they've been on the radio, now they're here, and that's
The
part of
city-
what a winner
And the
does.
city council talked about you. You weren't there for it, but they mentioned you.
There you go. So see?
So,
That's
Making
awesome.
Cleveland proud.
Well, thank you guys so much for allowing us to come and to recognize these amazing girls. They are wonderful humans, and then they're not so bad at softball either, okay? So thank you all so much. We very much
Congratulations.
appreciate being here. So, thank you.
You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
We don't cry. Thank you. You can all.
Hey guys, wait on out there for a picture.
Thank you, coaches, for what you
Thank
do.
you very much.
I'll be out there.
Good job there.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
That's good. Thank you, coaches.
Hey, thank you.
Now our meeting gets boring again. Well, we have one more recognition. We have one more recognition. Okay. We're not done with that yet. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna have another presenter.
Come on in. I'm gonna talk about you for a moment.
Where would you like me to say?
How about right there at the podium?
Podium, right there.
You don't have to give a speech. You just have to stand. So I'm going to, if it's okay, read an email that we got from Ms. Schultz. She's on vacation this week, did not be here, and Ms. Carr is not available either, so I'm reading. So I'm gonna read this, and then you'll know exactly why we have one of our best SROs that's being recognized today. This is recognition of Officer Jansen Bassey, and it says, when the fire alarm sounded at Stewart just before 10 a.m. on Friday, May 17th, now remember, school is in session then, my first thought was that one of the younger children had accidentally pulled a fire alarm, or you could say purposefully sometimes too. I added that part. I called out on the school's radios asking if that was a false alarm. The next voice I heard was one of the assistants yelling, "It's real, it's real." The staff had sprung into action, getting all the students out safely and helping everyone to remain calm. Our SRO, Jansen Bassey, and Alicia Cars had charged toward the danger. As I approached the bathroom containing the fire, all I could see were the feet of Officer Jansen and Mrs. Cars under the black cloud of smoke that billowed down the hallway. Officer Jansen had grabbed the fire extinguisher and immediately began to put out the fire. Before the firemen were able to make it to campus, he had already secured our facility and protected us. Due to Officer Jansen's bravery and quick thinking, our school was saved and students were all safe. One of the first graders found me while we were waiting to re-enter the school. She looked at me and said, "Thank you for making us practice how to be safe," talking about fire drills. I assured her that she did a great job of listening and that Officer Jansen was always looking out for us to protect us. With a huge grin, she said, "I loved him." Her expression sums up our gratitude. We are so thankful that our city supports our schools with the placement of SROs. Not only are they able to build strong positive relationships with our students, but they're also there to protect us. If Ash Jansen would say he was just doing his job on May 17th, he doesn't like recognition, but we wanted to know how blessed we are to have him part of the school family. We're grateful that Officer Jansen Bassey accepted the responsibility to care for our school, students, and staff. And also, P.S., she says a huge thank you to Hal Taylor and Cliff Eason for their help through the situation. So we did have a small fire at Stewart Elementary School, May 17th, in one of the bathrooms out toward the kindergarten into the hallway. But that could have easily turned into something much more if we didn't have quick action by Officer Jansen here and all the other folks that went into just what happens when you have an emergency happen at a school. So we wanted to say thank you. Absolutely, we want it.
I'd like to say something, and if you all do too, but, you know, there's so much press about taking officers out of our schools. I'd like to take that young student who said, I love him, and say, thank you for keeping us safe, and take her and tour her around and let people hear how the children love having you there. That makes them feel safe, and they develop those relationships with you, and thank you for doing that.
Yes,
They're
ma'am.
learning a very valuable lesson, and I want them all to feel safe at school.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna say, I had kids and grandkids in Cleveland City Schools, and I hear nothing but wonderful things about our SROs. You know, you sit down and have lunch with the kids and talk to them, and they come in and talk to you.
Mhm.
It's such a blessing, and I hope that never changes.
Nate?
Yeah, my kids had the opportunity to serve or go to school under you, and they thought highly of you and appreciated everything you do. And me being there myself, saw you in action. So grateful that you served there and Stewart, but also the other SROs in the city. So thank you for what you do.
Charlie?
I worked for the SROs for 11 years, and I know how important you are, and the safety for our kids is number one. And I appreciate what you did and how you handled that situation that day. Thank you.
Yeah.
25 years at Yates, I had 2 SROs, but they were just part of us, and we considered them part of their family. And never had any complaints, anything about it. So thank you all for what you did.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope you can get a picture of him to put in the paper. Right.
I just stick around.
I mean, I'm here for the long haul. Might as well get paid or have to be here, right?
So, yeah, one thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to put this in a format that we can send to the chief, because I do want, you know, the chief and all those at the police department to make those higher up decisions, to understand the importance of our SROs and the great work they do, and you know, it's just a way that we can show thank you to you and to all your other. Yeah, and we're gonna make sure you copy that too.
Dr. Dyer, could you make that so each one of us can sign it too?
Yeah.
We want them to continue.
I'll ask Julie to do that.
She's already got
She's a better typer than I am.
Just put it on there.
We will make sure that's taken care of, absolutely. Great idea.
All right, that was fun. I
Yeah.
like that. Let's just forget the rest of the meeting.
You're the chair, so.
All right, if there's no more comments, we'll move on to the Kings Creek
Yes.
Commons lot purchase.
Okay, something we've been talking about for a while, board meetings, the site committee, are the lots in front of Kings Creek and Cherokee Elementary School. And we have the opportunity now to use some funds to purchase lot 10. And that would be a great way, I think, to, I guess the word would be secure the view from the road to get a clear view of the school and prevent development in front of the school, directly in front of the school. I do think other lots are, from what my knowledge is, are selling, and there may be development there. Don't know when that's gonna be, because they will have to take some of the road space and all that, but we do, I think it would be a great thing for us to go ahead and secure that one lot, get that under our ownership, that way we have it. And we probably won't do anything with it until the road is eventually fixed and modified, changed, whatever that's going to be. But I think that would be a great idea. You have the contract in front of you. It's posted on our agenda. You can see that it's for lot 10, and it's a typical land type of contract. So the way this would work is, if our board approves it, then what we would do is send this to the city for this to go on their June 14th agenda, since the city would also have to approve, the city council to approve this contract. And then closing would hopefully happen before July 1. So that's my recommendation, is to purchase this lot 10 in front of Kings Creek.
I have one question, and others probably have. We were gonna put the word for the use and benefit of Cleveland City Schools, but that's not what's on this contract.
No, I think working with the attorneys, they thought it was good as written. Now, we can change it, modify it as we need to, but the city attorney, I believe, Hal?
Yeah, generally speaking, John Kimball will get involved once the city approves it. And I think he'll actually put for the benefit of what you're saying.
I mean, I'd like us to approve it with that verbiage in it, and if they don't like it, they can send it back to us, but I'm not real comfortable just leaving it it's unclear. I mean, it's clear to us, but somebody in 10 years might come back, pull out the deed, and it doesn't say that. So, could we not put?
We can amend however you guys want to amend that, make it taken out by a future lawyer, but
Isn't
that's
that
fine by
what
me.
you observed
Yeah,
on our
that's what all our deeds say. It says for the,
use of
is
benefit?
the
Right.
city of Cleveland for the use
So
and
we can do
benefit
whatever
of the
the board
Cleveland
want to do
City
as far as
School
that goes.
Board of Education.
What do you all think?
I think it's fine if all the other documents, you say that, why would you leave it out?
Well, like you said, if they disagree, they can amend it according to how they see fit. It sounds like that's how they would
Yeah.
have it.
I'm
So we would need a motion to approve with the addition of that language, on that first part of the contract.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. A second? Second, any questions about, everybody clear about the motion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. It's
Okay,
unanimous.
good. We'll get that updated and.
Did you vote? All those opposed?
Yeah.
Are you what?
No, I just had some questions, but we've already.
Go ahead and ask
So
your
that's
question.
okay. That's
Oh,
fine.
no, I want you to speak up if you have a question.
Well, I still, and I've said this from the past, I just think it's too premature. And this lot is gonna be cut at least in half within the next couple of years or so. And you've offered them this price, which, I guess for the lot, maybe that's okay, maybe not. But my concern is the lot is going to be at least half of what it is right now, maybe less. And I just don't think it's a good investment. I don't think it's necessary to purchase this, but at this point, because I just don't think it's a sellable lot to anybody when it's going to be very, very, very small.
I know, just from my understanding, other lots are under contract at this point. So
Yeah, I know.
we do want to secure that one. This is the avenue to do it, but that's board decision on that.
So I think prices of lots are going up, and I think in a couple of years or however much time we wait, it's going to be even higher possibly.
Yeah.
And more
But you also
valuable.
have to remember it's going to be cut at least in half.
It doesn't matter when I look at the prices of houses and things, how they're done.
Yeah, I know, but the house lots are not being cut in half.
It's
You
a
know,
business lot though.
So Tom,
Okay.
would you like to be recorded as a no
Yes.
vote on that, please? So it's not, it's 6-4 and 1. Okay.
Yeah,
Didn't mean to put you
sure.
on the spot, but
No,
I
that's, yeah.
didn't mean to hurry through that, so you
Yeah.
couldn't speak that.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, well, then we'll go on to policy school support organization.
Okay.
Dr. Dyer.
So the school support organizations, you have a current 2.404, which has been, as you can see, redlined out all the way through. That board policy is one that we're going to be exiting from the current way that we do school support organizations. And the new one is in all red, signifying that it is brand new for us. The new procedures will change the way the school support organizations operate. So whether you're looking at band boosters, or if you're looking at PTOs, or any of those type of organizations which help fund outside organizations, or not outside organizations, but in an external way, fund booster clubs, football, those kind of things. This will change the format for how they operate in our school system and bring it up to state codes, state laws that are in effect. So this does meet the new state laws that are in effect, the comptroller's orders, those kind of things. And goes back to a way that really the school system operated, my understanding is 8 to 10 years ago. There were different variations of these school support organization laws that came out, and now they've really reverted back to that older way. The way that we'll be operating school support organizations is the way I'm used to doing this out of Cleveland, or Carterville schools, Shelby County schools. So we're going back to that format. This is the training that will take place with Chuck Cagle. So we're encouraging our school support organization presidents, our principals. You're more than welcome to come to that if you'd like to. It's not going to be the most thrilling training you've ever sat in. I'm just going to tell you that on the front end. The comptroller has basically a model policy for this. So if you went on the state of Tennessee's comptroller page and Google school support organizations, it's not going to be fun reading. I'm just going to tell you that. It's a handbook, and basically what we will do for our procedures is follow that handbook, and that's exactly what we will do. But in this training, Mr. Cagle's gonna walk through all those pages to make sure everybody knows what has to happen and when it has to happen. So that's what we will be doing. This policy is just getting us back into alignment with the state, and we wanted to get this approved in June, so that when Mr. Cagle comes, then we're ready to roll forward. If you have any questions, I can bring Cindy in.
Yes.
Try to answer those for you, so.
Can I have a question? Yep.
Just make sure I'm on.
So, this second paragraph here, civic organization, is that related to civic organizations within the school system?
It could be maybe the Rotary Club, just an example, is gonna come in and operate a concession stand for some kind of event. They wouldn't have to necessarily, go through all this, so they're just doing that as a one-out type of
So
thing.
are they getting funds from that, or is it just their maintaining it?
They're manning it, is my understanding. So the question was in the second paragraph, civic organization operating concessions or parking at school-sponsored events is not a school support organization. My example was if the Rotary Club wants to do a concession stand at a band event,
Right.
then Rotary would get that money.
Yes.
That would not come to the school system under that arrangement.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, when Dr. Denny was here, all that kind of stuff, we never had an outside group,
Right.
it was either the band boosters, whatever. Everything went through the bookkeepers, where everything was accounted for. But what's the difference now?
Difference would be the bookkeeper is no longer involved in this. The schools no longer collect money under this policy, under state law and the model policy for the comptroller's office. So if the PTO at Stewart has a fundraiser, that money does not come directly to the school. It would have to go through the school support organization, and they'd have to have a separate bank account.
That's correct. They would have to have their own bookkeeping, their own checking, everything separate from the school.
I liked it better the way it was.
Yeah.
Because we were protected,
Well,
and everything.
This is one we don't have a choice on. I just
Yeah.
will tell you that on the front end, so.
I remember, this has been several years back, there was a coaching situation in Murfreesboro, they were paying him extra money out of the booster club above his regular supplement.
Right.
So I don't,
Any of that kind of thing, any salary has to come through our accounts.
Yeah.
So that, we would have to
But
know.
this
those
way,
kind of
could an
things.
outside club give a coach extra money?
There are things that if their board approves that is a possibility.
Well, it
Or-
depends, the language says that it has to follow school policies,
Right.
school,
Yeah.
so there is language that they have to follow our
Exactly.
guidelines, but I guess we would have to establish a guideline that says you can't do this.
And that's in the model policy. Those kind of things you'll find in that model policy from the school support organization, from the comptroller's office. So we'll cover all of this at the June 14th meeting.
Yeah.
And that will be getting into those details, because principals have the same questions and those kind of things. But yeah, this is a different way of doing it.
So are you saying what Charlie described there will be covered in the school organization's policy? But how does that protect us?
Well, we're
Yeah.
protected here. It talks about, any agreement between the board and school support organization shall be in writing, signed by the director of school. So there are still pieces they have to go through. We can audit their files, we can go through and
Yeah.
require an outside audit, and all those kind of things still have to come into effect.
I get that, but if someone's paying a coach extra, how does that protect the school? Or if it doesn't matter because you agreed to accept their,
Yeah, if that happens,
Is
then
that what
it
we're
would
saying?
have to flow through personnel.
I think that, that's a good question that we'll be asking Mr. Cable, but I do know other situations where boosters have paid a coach, not our school system, but I don't think that's an audit finding, and that would be,
Yeah.
if they wanted to do that, they could do that, because they are a separate organization from us. But we're audited by our auditors, they're gonna look at a school's internal activity funds, and if they've got a check written to a coach, then that's a finding for whatever school that is, because it didn't run through payroll. I think once you separate it out, it's gonna be totally different.
see, I'm like Nate on this, South Pittsburgh High School had a situation this past year. A kid was behind his rent, and the quarterback club paid it, but the school knew nothing about it, and then the school got put on probation for
Right.
this. You remember the whole situation
Oh,
in
yeah.
South Pittsburgh?
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's,
don't know,
yeah,
I know we don't have a choice,
Yeah.
but I'm worried about it.
Our
We don't have a
policy that was
choice, but surely
adopted
we
in 2008, it says it's more restrictive. We chose not to follow
Yeah.
Tennessee code, but now they're not giving us a choice, we have to follow.
And they got put on probation for a year, the school do nothing about it,
Right.
you know?
And that happens sometimes. Thank goodness that's a rarity, but it can happen. And that's why you have to still have internal controls at your school system to make sure those audits are happening with those school support organizations. So those things still have to happen. They have to still turn in reports to the principal about their audits and have an outside firm do that. So there are still checks and balances along the way.
So our quarterback club will have to give stuff to the bookkeeper at the high school.
Well, it will come to the principal's office or our office. So the bookkeeper can't be involved in all those kinds
The
of.
bookkeeper's gonna like it because it's less
Yeah,
they're dealing with.
that will not have anything to do with it.
And the monies that are, like the football account right now, the money at the high school, we can't write a check to the boosters. So that
Right.
money, they'll be able to spend that down to zero, but once that's zero, they have to have their own booster club at that
They
point.
set up their own account
They have to
here.
set their own account.
I guess my question is, do we need to put something in this policy to protect the school system?
I would not recommend adding anything to this policy because this is the state model policy with this. Now, when we hear the training from Chuck Cagle and he's looked through these policies, I think he would have advised us if we had any areas that we needed to strengthen as far
Well,
as that
I
goes.
think we just need to ask him that question.
Yes.
I don't want to just take an assumption, make an assumption.
Yeah, well, this
I
is the
think
first
that-
reading on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So there has to be a second reading, so if there's some line that he recommends, then we can certainly do that. But I know this follows the comptroller's office and they're the ones who will conduct the audit.
Yeah, and you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
But
I agree with Nate. I think you need to ask that question.
Well, that's the whole point of having
Yeah.
come that day, so.
Okay, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Does the school support group have to be approved at the first of the school year, or can they be approved?
There's a deadline that we
There's
would
a
have to
deadline,
set.
so if somebody wanted
Yeah.
to do something in the middle of the year, they have to wait until the next
They have
year.
to wait, right.
Okay.
So there's a
Our
deadline.
current deadline is August first.
Yeah.
They have to have all this, our current deadline is August first. They have to have all their paperwork turned into us as far as
It's just a
who's
once
the
a year,
president.
Yeah.
once a year thing. Okay.
So,
So is an idea behind it this to protect school systems from being more responsible for money if money is misspent or
Well,
unaccounted for or?
yeah, I don't know what the legislative intent would be as far as this goes, but I think it's to get school system employees out of the mix of dealing with money that's raised from the outside sources.
So I have, go ahead, Krista.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, will there still be, I think I saw some language in this, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. There's still going to be some control from the schools of
Right.
how many and what kind of fundraisers
Right.
and coordinating, so
Exactly.
there's not
They still have to
competing
approve, yeah,
fundraisers.
exactly right. So we wouldn't have, I'll just use wrapping gift paper, we wouldn't have two fundraisers at the same school at the same time period competing for the same thing. So those still have to go through the approval stages that we normally would have in
So we
place.
really need to advertise this so these people know. that
Oh, they
have
know.
to
They're
get
calling
this
us.
done already.
Yeah, they know.
Okay.
So I have a
And we've been talking to principals about this for a
Okay.
while now, so.
There's that gray area of, the band and in chorus where the students raise money and it goes into their student account that they use then to pay the fees for like marching band for the bus travel or for the uniform dry cleaning or all those things. And to me, the band boosters are having the fundraisers for the students to raise money to help the students. So now that student money will stay separate, won't go through our school bookkeeper?
If it's band booster club raising the money, yes, then it would be in an account, a bank account for the band boosters. It would not be in an internal fund with Cleveland High School.
So
They
there's
would have to
two,
separate it.
they'll have to have two separate accounts, because part of that money pays their actual band fees, which is an academic
Right,
event activity.
right.
And then the other may pay for their taking a trip somewhere.
So
or-
if the band boosters are running the concessions to the high school football stadium, that money would go to the band boosters' private account outside of the school system. So that's how that's just an example.
So each student would have to have two separate accounts, it sounds like.
Well, and that's the other part of this, we'll get more into this later, but really having individual student accounts can happen either. So that'll be June 14th training. So,
And see, the importance of that was the expense of band competitions or choral competitions. and the band boosters trying to provide opportunities for students to raise that money. So if mom and dad can't afford $300 or whatever it is nowadays, I don't know, then the student is given 3 opportunities in the
Right.
school year to raise those funds.
Yeah.
Well, now you're saying that we can't do that.
Well, I'm saying my experience has been that from where I came from. Now, I'm gonna wait for Chuck Cable to give legal guidance. So what I'm telling you right now is from Russell Dyer's experience in Shelby County Schools. We could not have individual student accounts where money raised went to Russell Dyer, my personal, it went to band boosters for the use of the band boosters program. So that was my experience there, but I would wait for Chuck to weigh in as far as that goes.
So we
We
don't have-
approved the fee schedules at the schools for things. When we do that in July? Or not
Well,
in
it'll be John, so it'll be August.
So-
Yeah. No, we already did.
That might affect those fee schedules. I mean, when you're
Yeah.
thinking about those organizations where they depend on that to pay for the buses, and they depend on it to pay for a lot of expense having to do with their competitions and their travel. But, you know, a lot of students, so the band, you know, I understand the band boosters can raise all this money,
Right,
but there's students who will participate and there's students that won't. It's always just left up
Yeah.
to the students. But sometimes the students that need the help financially are unable to participate and the band boosters cover that. But what if all the students say it doesn't matter because band boosters are gonna pay for it and now all of a sudden band boosters can't raise enough money? I
It's the
just,
same thing we dealt with in Shelby County, I get it, but it is the comptroller's rules on that we have to work through.
Well, I hope that, Mr. Cagle might be able to, or maybe in one of your organizations might be able to help with some creative solutions for other, you know, just because that's how we've
Yeah.
always done it, doesn't mean that's the only way to do that, because it is so important to make sure that we give those opportunities, make those opportunities available for all students, whether
Sure.
they can do it financially or not.
Yeah.
And losing that opportunity would prevent some students from being able to participate.
Right.
And I'd like to be able to come up with some creative solutions for that.
And I would say the first year we went through this, it was tough because everybody was learning, and then after that, it worked fine. It really did. And so it's not all doom and gloom as far as this goes. We figured it out there, we'll figure it out here. We just need to make sure we're staying in the parameters of what the comptroller's office and the legal parts need us to do. But we would figure this out.
We don't have to approve this on first reading.
This is first reading
This
today,
is first
this
reading,
is
so we can
August.
wait and learn a little bit more from Chuck Cagle. and-
Right.
And they might come up with some changes.
Well, maybe, but I would say there's very little changes we can make to the comptroller's document.
This will probably one we'll change, make changes every year.
Could be.
well, I mean, we can not approve it, but then we're gonna have to read it 2 more times.
That's right.
So we need an approval for the first reading and then, well.
Well, I mean, her points are, you know, some kids do that, they can't afford it, you know, and I bought from Cleveland Middle School to high school, those, discount cards, you know, and the kids can sell so much and, I don't know, buying their instant help, you know, with the uniform or whatever, they're gonna be able to sell the discount cards.
They'll
and-
still be able to fundraise.
Yeah.
It just depends on who's doing the fundraising. Does it go to band boosters or does it go to an account at Cleveland High School? So I don't see that the student would lose money. They can still track who's raising what.
And that kid
That's the
raised $100 towards a band contest in
Yeah.
Gatlinburg or whatever, right? I
So
wanna
the
make sure-
treasurer's gonna have to do a really good job.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be on the
And they have
band
before.
booster treasurer to track in their books who this money belongs to.
And then do they turn that over to the school at the end of the year then, the student account totals, or just the total of what they raised during the year?
I would say probably if there's any transactions between the 2 groups, you know, the band boosters themselves could pay for whatever's being purchased, whatever they're raising the money for. So
Okay.
I don't see that there would be a lot of transfer back and forth between
No.
the 2 groups.
Mainly what we turned in at the end of the year, the SSOs had to turn over their audit by a certain date at the end of the school year that went into our financials for the auditor, for the school system and everything else. So,
For whatever it's worth, when I first became principal, this is
Yeah.
the way it was.
yeah, it's just going back to the old way.
And then when they decided to go this way, oh my gosh, you know, we saw the world was coming to an end. And everybody had to turn their money into the school. So it worked.
Krista?
But if I remember correctly, when we discussed this before, you said there is a clear distinction between the support organizations and academic clubs and
Right.
activities that are run through the schools.
Right.
Those are still gonna be the
So,
same. So if
National
it's
Junior
field
Honor
trip-
Society is still through the school. They don't have this outside school support organization. It's just a club at the school. So their
So they
money
can do a
is still through,
fundraiser.
they still do fundraisers and it runs to the school accounts. It's just if there is a booster club or a PTO, which is clearly an outside entity helping to pay for things that event does, that's when this would come to account.
Nick?
I have a comment and a question. I have no doubt that we'll flush out all the, or we'll get to and adjust. But that's the whole point of this meeting too, is to make sure all of our questions get answered. So I appreciate the dialogue and the issues that everybody's bringing up, because this is a sensitive subject, whether it's sensitive to us or not, it is a sensitive subject.
Right.
So I do appreciate that. On page 3.11, so I'm gonna use Julie as an example. So Julie is an employee of the school system. So based upon this reading here, it doesn't mention anything about a spouse. So that means Julie's husband can be a voting member in one of those organizations, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. But if you're a school employee, like it says here, yeah, exactly right.
So you're familiar with this, and you all worked out all the bugs?
We did, I mean, I'm not gonna say it was easy, because it is in new ways, like Carolyn mentioned, anytime you make a change and it's dealing with all these kind of events and money, and it takes some time to get used to, and you really have to provide that training to get through it, and that's why we felt it was so important to bring Chuck Cable to Cleveland to sit down with principals and PTO presidents, band booster president, whatever the case may be, so that everybody is hearing exactly the same thing. So that's what that training will be for.
So when the band boosters are gonna purchase I'll tell you, this happened to me. I bought a new gasket for the deep freezer in the band booster room. And I walked over to the bookkeeper and asked to be reimbursed, and she said, too bad you didn't pull a purchase order, too bad, it was $6 or something. But, so they don't have to pull purchase orders for their purchases, the band boosters or the athletic boosters or PTOs, no more, because that was a change, I remember, because we used to not have to do that because it was band booster money, but then all of a sudden we had to pull purchase orders, and that really messed us up.
The thing, another part of this though, is once you buy that gasket with that band booster money, that gasket belongs to Cleveland City Schools.
Right.
So
Well, it's on
it
the
doesn't
freezer.
belong to the band boosters. Once it becomes our property, we own that gasket, so.
Yeah, it's in the, I don't even know if the freezer's
Yeah.
still in the band room.
One final question. The money that exists today in the
Yes.
accounts, what's the future of that?
It will stay in those accounts at the school.
Or who owns it?
Cleveland City Schools, or that school owns that money.
Not
And now
those-
they can agree to how they're gonna spend it with the PTO. They still can have input on it, but it stays with the school.
So this is a big policy, big change,
Yeah.
but it is going back to the way things used to be. And you know how these things go sometimes in the government. It goes, there's a lot of circular action, so we're back to where we were, but it will take some change.
It looks like there's a lot of make work in this policy, and I'll be anxious to talk to Mr. Cagle about that. You're supposed to annually post a list of organizations that are recognized,
Right.
you've got a date, you've got a deadline, you've got to create procedures here, it says.
Well, that would be the model
It's
policy.
in the policy already there,
It
if
is.
you download that one from the state, it's all laid out there exactly. And I've already looked at Collierville's to see exactly, and they're following the same policy.
Shelby County,
Same
you
forms,
just copy and
everything,
paste, basically.
So what's disturbing to me about this is that whatever happened to local control?
Right.
I mean, we talk about our government in our state and in our country, and we say we believe in local control, but then we hand down this blanket policy for the whole state of Tennessee, and you better follow it because the comptroller's gonna write you up if you don't, and you don't have really any say, so you better just pass what we send you.
Right.
And that takes away our ability as a school board to have local control, and that's what disturbs me about this. I don't think I had a single conversation with any of our representatives about this either, and I would wish that that would happen. No.
Well, the first year we got the funding in that audit,
Mhm.
it was like, oh, our policy's stronger, so we're just gonna roll with this.
And we talked to Chuck Hagel about that.
Yeah,
You know, he
and
said, you're fine, roll with it and see what happens
Yeah,
next year.
and then the next year we got it again, so then he's like, okay, you're gonna have to adopt this other policy, because it's twice you've got funding, so.
Do we know why this was brought up originally? Were there issues?
No,
with what was
there's
going on
no-
Before?
Nothing fishy or anything, it's just this is an area of the audit that they've really put an emphasis on, just like in the sport, sometimes an umpire group is told, put special emphasis on whatever that move is during that year, and this is something the auditors are taking an extra look at this time, for whatever reason, across the state, so.
I agree with you, what you said, Don, and maybe we should send a letter to representatives as board.
I think it would be interesting to ask our representatives, how many of our band boosters or PTO parents or athletic boosters, how many of them did they talk to when they were developing this law or this policy, or encouraging the comptroller to come forth with that? And did they have those kind of conversations? Did they have any in Cleveland City Schools that we know of? I think those parents that are out working so hard, they're probably gonna love this. I'm not saying this is a bad policy, but it's really kind of silly to sit here and vote for something that we don't really have any say on. We need 2 readings, but, oh well, what am I gonna say? No. And so I think that's kind of a bad thing.
Now,
No, one of
South
the
Pittsburgh
reasoning
High School
behind
did
this-
nothing wrong, and they
Yeah.
would first rule the kid ineligible, and then they let him, he's eligible now. But South Pittsburgh High School did nothing wrong, and they're on probation for a year.
right,
And I've been through that, I mean, something happens, you could, no postseason play or anything.
Are they still on probation?
Yeah, they let, the TLSAA left out, they ruled the kid eligible, and the family, if the player got their rent paid, the family knew nothing about it.
right.
But South Pittsburgh High School is still on probation, and they did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, an outside group paid the family's rent.
Right.
They were about to get ejected or something. I mean, that's just, I don't see why an outside group did something wrong, but South Pittsburgh High School is paying for it.
Yeah. Now, my understanding, the TCA on this, I don't think has changed in a long time. I think this has been the law for a long time, but we had a more restrictive policy that has been in place, which they usually let you get away with. They usually will let you roll with that. If your own policy is more restrictive than what the state has, they're usually fine. But in this particular case, we have had some audit findings, and that's not what you want to have. You want clear audits, and the audit findings, not that we did anything wrong, it's just we need to make sure we follow the model policy.
I will make it clear, we all have a great relationship with each one of our legislators. Any one of us feel confident sending them texts or phone calls. And so they're very approachable, they listen to us, but I just wish we'd had some dialogue about this policy with them, to see where they stood and how they arrived at this
Yeah,
decision.
yeah.
That would have been helpful to
Just
us.
wonder if we would have had the breakfast with them or lunch at Broad Street, we might.
Well,
That we were supposed
like I
to.
said, the TCA, this has been on the books for a long time. I don't think, I don't know if any of our current legislators
We do have a new comptroller,
were part of this, so.
since we have a new governor, and maybe that's the new comptroller.
They may not be aware of this.
We can blame it on the comptroller.
So I guess my follow-up question, do we have a record of questions that's gonna be sent to the lawyer? The questions
Well,
that
if
we're
you
asking?
have questions, we could, what I would maybe ask is that you submit them, whatever questions that you may have, to Julie in the next week. And that way we can have a list of those to make sure they get, I'd like to send those to him in advance, that way he knows to research whatever we need to answer. I'd be glad to.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, I guess we'll move on. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. All
So,
right, strategic
do we
plan.
need to get that approved on first reading? Or do we-
Oh, yeah, no, we didn't do that, thank you. Okay, we do need a motion to approve on the first reading. Nate made the motion, second. Carolyn, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. No, I understand.
The first reading, it doesn't go into effect, it just gets the ball rolling.
Well, I mean, like we have a choice, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead,
No.
Doctor.
Well, I appreciate it. I know this is one of those that's gonna take some time, and we'll get Chuck Cable, he's gonna hold our hand through this, because there are pieces of it where he needs to, so I appreciate that.
What day is it, the 14th?
June 14th, it's a Monday, I don't know when June, she'll send you the information.
Who are we sending the letter to the comptroller or to Chuck Hagel,
I
Chuck
don't-
with questions?
Chuck, to ask him
But-
questions.
Send questions if you would to Julie, though.
I'd like our questions to go also to our legislators. I wonder if they know very much about it.
Well, let's wait till we hear from Chuck about that, because he might clarify some
Yeah,
things
he
for
will,
us.
he will,
And
and I asked him to do that.
then we should, if that's okay with you, Peggy? we would-
Maybe we could have a discussion with him remotely or something, be prior to the June 14th meeting.
Yeah, I will not be available, I will not be in town, but,
Well, we can do that.
Yeah.
Never mind.
He's on.
we will see. I'll be glad to talk to you after.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Okay, where are we? We're strategic plan focus, okay. You have in front of you, a handout, and I'm not gonna go through all this. I just wanted to share with you where we are as far as things that have been accomplished this year from the strategic plan. And again, I'm not gonna go through this whole page. I'm gonna go through just several of the pieces of the puzzle here. But this also gives you the whole strategic plan points that we're gonna be working on over the next 5 years. So you can look at those on your own at some point down the road. But things we've been able to accomplish this year include conducting weekly grade level literacy meetings at schools and monthly at the district levels. That was something, these are all goals that we had set for this year. And these are things that we've been able to accomplish this year, even in the face of COVID. So I think it's important for us to celebrate our victories, especially in the face of a global pandemic. And that's something that I'm very proud of. We've conducted iReady diagnostic assessments in grades K through 8. So we've been able to move ahead with doing the type of diagnostics we needed to make sure we knew where our students were at the beginning of the year and be able to benchmark them throughout the year. We've looked at leadership training, we've conducted walkthroughs of classrooms. We've worked with review of data on key components of the ELA, or English Language Arts instructional practice. There's a new guided walkthrough observation that we're working with TNTP for us, working with them and SCORE about how we implement that, how we go into classrooms and what we're looking for while we're there. We've worked to adjust the role of technology teachers, especially in our elementary schools, to be true STEAM teachers. That's something that for them is a morphing of their role from just being tied to a computer all day to how can we use them in different ways, and they've done a great job with that. Of course, we purchased those Chromebooks for students in grades K through 5 to finish our BLADE programming, which is a huge accomplishment and even a bigger deal to get them all here. So that turned out to be a real ordeal, but they finally made it. We're very glad for that, including creating that elementary level deployment. And I got to thank Cody Raper and all of his team for their work as far as that goes. And the portrait of graduate, yes,
When we have new students come in that we didn't expect, do we have enough Chromebooks?
we always buy extras.
You buy extras?
So we have extras that are ready to go. If new students come in, they can get those and be plugged in like everybody else. So we're in good shape.
And Dr. Lara,
Yes.
I have a question about that, the BLADE program.
Right.
When we first implemented it, we were very heavy on teacher training.
Right.
Are we still, is that continuing to be part of their
Well,
professional development?
Good question. This year, we didn't have as much of those trainings as we will in future years. This year, we were focused on some other things, but next year, I think you will, I know you will see a return of that training. And now, Dr. Elliott, if you want to mention.
We've had some preliminary meetings back in May to plan out our PD plan for this coming school year. Technology is a part of it. And our BLADE facilitators, we have one at each level, and we have an elementary BLADE facilitator. And that's going to be a big part of our focus, will be the professional development. And she meets with the principals, and she did hold some meetings in the spring with principals and teachers at each school on a periodic basis to find out what their needs were and how they could help them out. So it'll be ongoing throughout.
Yeah. So yes, a lot more to come on that. And that's another use for those BLADE facilitators at schools. Under Portrait of a Graduate and Career Exploration, we've been able to utilize U-Science in all of our CTE courses and our FX program at the high school. U-Science is a really neat tool, and I actually did it myself just because I was curious what it thought my career should be. turned out in the right career field, that's great. But it helps kids think through career paths, and it's a really neat program that takes in their character, their interests, their academics, all these different features, and it's really neat to help them think about future careers. It doesn't say you have to be a policeman or you have to be a teacher. It gives them general ideas about fields that they may be good in, and that will help them as far as planning what maybe CTE courses to take or what they need to do, be thinking about for colleges. Create at least one business or industry partner for worksite opportunities for CAPS. We have our first program, of course, including utilities, that's been announced. We're going to be working soon to announce another that's going to be a really big, neat thing, but it's not ready to go out just yet, but we're going to make sure that you are aware of that and then go public with it fairly soon. But that's going to be really neat to get under our cap as far as the CAPS program goes. And then, of course, Rennie and his team have really been working hard to work on their CTE newsletter and make sure that the community is updated as far as what's going on in the world of CTE. You have a fairly new little booklet here that his department has made. We're going to be continuing to update that and make changes on that as we go, but it's a great way to showcase to the community great things happening in the world of CTE. Under student support, we're doing a lot of things, including offer speech language integrated service in the regular education setting, evaluating and previewing available screening tools and interventions, because that's an ongoing effort. ESL continues to be a point of emphasis for the school system. Our ESL numbers are continuing to grow. That is not something that is going away. And it really adds a neat mixture to diversity to our school system. So it's neat to see that, and we really encourage that. But we did need to this year hire an ESL family engagement coordinator. We were able to do that, and just really had a good run with that this year. We'll be able to continue that next year. But they help us coordinate with our ESL families, because sometimes the language barrier can be a real challenge. And that person has come in and really helped us to build some of those bridges that we needed to and move forward. And of course, planning and implementing summer intervention programming and after-school learning labs. That's underway right now. Summer camps are underway. Next fall, we'll be able to have STEAM learning camps after school. Again, that's funded by the state, so that's something that'll be coming. We also are working on what we're calling high-dose tutoring. That will be coming down the road. We're not ready for that yet to go forward, but working on details as far as being able to provide very high-dose tutoring to students in need of that tutoring service. So that'll be neat to see that roll out. The state's still working on the plan for that and how that's going to work and how that'll be funded, but that's coming down the road as well.
How would you define that, high-dose tutoring?
Basically, it would be tutoring that would happen, I can't tell you in how many days a week yet, but say,
After school?
for conversation's sake, let's say 3 days a week, and it'd be a small group of maybe one teacher or one tutor per, say, 3 or 4 kids. And it would be very intense tutoring on a certain ELA topic or math topic or whatever the case may be.
That's good.
So what the state, that's still being developed and still, figuring out details on that, but we are working on those things. So if you go through and look at all the documents, you'll be able to get, I think, a pretty crystal clear picture about where the school system is headed. This comes all from the approved strategic plan that you approved last year, but now we've been able with NIET to really put the details in that need to go in. And this is our public-facing document. We have a behind-the-scenes document that's much more detailed with key performance indicators and other things too. But this is something that we're going to be working on. But I did want you, for at least the 2021 school year, to get a highlight of what we've been able to accomplish this year in the face of COVID. So we didn't let COVID necessarily slow us down. We were still trekking ahead, and I appreciate the work of all the team in central office, all the team in our schools for the work they've done this year. It's been a handful.
Are we going to be able to have a German teacher this next year? Have we been able to find one?
Well, there's not been a lot of interest in German language as far as I know. I'm looking at Dr. Elliott to see if you know anything about that, but I don't think we will have a German program next year.
I haven't heard any more updates as far as that is concerned, so I don't.
Most of our students are more interested in Spanish, right now, and I can understand why. I'm not, as far as that goes, but now I'm not going to say that's a dead topic for future years, but not for probably next year.
I think a lot of kids were interested in German because they love Carol Dale.
Yeah,
She was such a
sure.
great teacher, and she attracted the students.
Yes.
And per your article in the paper a few days ago, no virtual.
No virtual school for next year, that is
Because
correct.
of
Not England's, yeah, we did not have the interest level for that, and, honestly, that's okay to me. The vast majority of our kids are coming back, and that's what we love to see. The best education is gonna be in front of the teacher in the classroom setting, yeah.
Are we going to be able to utilize, like the cameras in the classroom for homebound students? Have we
Well-
learned how to do some of those things?
Homebound would still go through the regular homebound program, but we need to make sure I say that correctly, with a homebound teacher, but let's say you have a student who's quarantined. I'm not real sure where we are right now with the state board.
Yeah, we're waiting to see on that information.
The state board has to change policy for us to be able to do quarantine, for students to be counted in attendance if they're home quarantine, for example. Hopefully, we won't see much of that next year. But if they are, they would have to change that policy to count them in attendance if we did virtual.
I was just thinking, if you had a camera in a foreign language class, because homebound teacher is very rare, you find anyone who's capable of teaching a foreign language.
And it-
If you could utilize what you learned to do that.
Well, the problem, I'm gonna be honest with you, the
Yeah.
problem is the new state laws do not allow us to do what we did this year. Okay, so we can't just turn on a camera and count a student that may be home in attendance. So the only way we can do that is if there's a declared state of emergency from the governor's office. Could we run our continual learning plan like we did this year?
Well, I'm not thinking about accounting for attendance. I'm thinking, because you have a homebound teacher who could kind of help them with the assignments, but they still have the ability to watch the class.
Yeah, it's, I wish it was as easy as that,
You too.
but we run into some difficulties, just to be honest. There's some regulations and policies we have to follow as far as that goes. But
Nothing's ever as easy as.
no, unfortunately,
Any other comments?
not for me, I'm done.
Okay, Charlie, site committee.
Y'all remember, I guess the last meeting, we approved the Bobby Scott Field House and the Bill Talley Baseball Stadium. And an article came out in the paper Sunday and got a lot of interest, and David's gonna give you a brief update here about that. But Hal contacted me Tuesday about it, and then he wanted me to call David, talk to David, and talk to Hal again. That's Dr. Dyer. We met yesterday at the field house, and we got a pretty good, and Hal's got some pictures, I think he's gonna show you where. But David, just very briefly, has got 4 letters, I think he told us, that he wanted to mention those real quick and give us an update. And very quickly about your meeting Sunday, or at the Bald Head Bistro last week too, David.
When I was last here, I want you to know, I feel like I floated out of this room. I was so happy.
Go ahead up there.
I was so happy when I left here. And I intended to speak to each one of you. I got some of you I didn't get. I apologize for that. Last Thursday, we had a reception for Coach Scott. We had about 70 or 80 people there. It was, I can't tell you, it was tremendous. But we had grown men take the microphone and cry to express to him what he meant to me. Coach Scott, I met with him yesterday, and he said it was the most significant event of my life.
Oh,
That's great.
awesome.
Greg Davis, his grandmother happened to pass, so he was able to come to town and to attend the event. And didn't plan for Greg to speak, but we asked him to, and he took the microphone and he did this. Not one incident was I uncomfortable attending Cleveland High School. Not one comment. We had another, Vicki Westfield. Some of you all know Vicki. Vicki knocked it out of the park about how good, I'm gonna call it race relations was in those early days and what it meant to him. To his most significant time of his life. I have here, and as I said, I'll be brief. I didn't ask for any more letters, but some people heard there were letters, and you're gonna find some of these letters interesting. But I do have, I would like to submit to you. In this file, there's 3 copies of each of the letters. But if you all get a chance, I think it will, there's the sort of the original one. The copy of the letters, you will find those interesting, I think. But I say again, you all made the right decision, and this is to reinforce the decision you make. And There's no question about it. This is making a difference. This is rejuvenating some of the folks that went to school when I did. So when they see those names out there, it's gonna make a difference. Thank you all very much.
Are these the same letters that we saw before?
No, there's other, let me explain one. There's one, they're new, they're different people.
Okay.
And there's one, mine is back there, I want to say real briefly. When I submitted my letter, I was in Florida, I used an iPad, and I didn't know it until the night I came in here with you all. The line breaks were all messed up, so I redid my letter, I'm sorry, the words are the same, but anyway. I didn't want the record to reflect my bad line. But thank you all very much.
David, we
Thank
thank
you,
you
David.
for you caring
Yes.
about Cleveland High School and the legacy. Not only caring about the legacy, but the legacy continues forward. And thank you for
Thank you very
caring
much.
enough to make sure that happens.
And I appreciate you sitting through this whole meeting to give us this wonderful information.
Well, you know what, this is so important. And it means so much for so many people. And by the way, I did not know that picture was gonna make the newspaper. By the way, I used that, we had a placard made with a picture on it for one purpose, is to get some money.
Yeah.
I asked for money and I think we're gonna be able to pay for that sign, so, the Coach Scott sign, so we're hoping to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hal's gonna come up and give us what we kind of come to conclusion off on Thursday, how we're gonna do the sign. And also get an update on the awnings, kitchen hoods. Are we gonna talk about the College Hill? Yesterday, when
Well, I
Brian
think we
came
were
by,
gonna wait till August.
Okay.
to talk
Yeah.
about it.
We're looking at doing something for College Hill.
Before we go, Charlie, before we go to Hal, I was gonna ask you about a plaque. I mean, we're gonna put Coach Scott's name on the field house, but we need the students that come through there to know why the field house is named that. And is there gonna be something placed in there for the public or the students to see?
It's my intent, of course, that we'll work coordinated through you, Dr. Dyer, and I've had the conversation along with others. Right now, we want to propose the initial language. The answer is yes. We want a plaque in there to show who is this person.
Yeah, the history, why.
Yes.
And maybe you can have his picture on the plaque, that way
That'd be
we
great.
put a face with a name.
Yeah, I think that's important because, we all see Betty Monroe's name up on the stadium, but if you move into Cleveland last year, you don't know who Betty Monroe is. And so I think that if we're gonna have that history, we need to have it.
You know, that's a good point there, because when we do one from Coach Scott inside the field house somewhere,
Probably need to do one for Benny.
for Benny too and everything, but what Don explained to me, the plaque, we don't have to prove, but we don't have to prove the sign today, right?
Right, well, we have to approve
The
signage.
The signage.
Yes, because it's on the building, it's major. The plaque, our policy calls for the wording in the plaque, but I think if you're gonna add dates or that on there, that's, okay, that's pretty standard. It's just the signage.
Signage, okay.
I wish we had something permanent where we could put a copy of these letters so they could really understand, these individuals.
Well, I'll just say if I can real quick. First of all, I want to thank the work he does not only for this, but he is also on the foundation's executive board. And not only is he working to pull alumni together for Cleveland High School, but also on behalf of the foundation for Walker and for Bradley doing a really good job. In this case, it's really neat to see alumni come back and get involved, and that's only going to benefit the school system. Not just the high school, but the school system overall. When we saw it at Stewart this year, they put out a call for scholarships, and next thing you know, they've got enough for, I think, four, and then they've got already money for next year. So, getting our alumni involved at all of our schools is going to make a huge difference in.
When I contacted David, he said,
Charlie City schools.
when do we need to meet? You tell me,
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Well,
No doubt.
And one thing I was gonna say about Peggy's comment, we've talked about at some point redoing the entranceway into the stadium. I've seen some neat examples of things you can do to create a wall of fame, I guess you could say, at an entrance. And I've got some pictures from some school systems where I've been kind of just looking around that we can get to at some point and talk about how we could showcase letters like that and pictures and trophies that right now are just stuck in trophy case where nobody ever gets to see them. So if you don't mind, we can come back to that at some point whenever it's time to do that.
You can see a name, but you don't know anything about that individual, but if you can read about them, then you know what Cleveland High School was like back then, what
Sure.
these people were like.
Yeah, I think there's some neat things we could do to that down.
Well, if I could add one comment, what I discovered there are some, the band room is named after Phil Higgins, for example.
Right.
And there are some other things that are named, but nobody, they need to be documented.
Yes.
And it needs to be on record, and everybody needs to know what it is, who it is, and why it happened.
Exactly.
And I think that's-
We have not, we need to.
Yeah, that's our history.
For a wall of fame of something like that could come in handy where the band people, the art, all that kind of stuff could be a showcase that you could really do some neat
I
stuff.
mean, there's a
with.
picture of Krill in the band. That's about all, you know, and, well, who's Krill? You know, why do we have Higgins Hall? People don't even know the band room has a name, but, yeah.
Go ahead, Hal.
Well, and along those lines, one of the things that this has actually brought up is standardization of how we recognize people, because if we don't get into where we standardize some kind of colors, how the letters, the type of letters, then everybody's gonna bring their own artistic impression to it. So what we did yesterday, I think we went towards that. We look at what's already there, and what we have is probably a good standard to stay with. It keeps it straightforward. It keeps it pretty well, in a standard situation for us. So when you look at the Benny Monroe Stadium, that's what we use as an example. When you look on the building out front, the Jones Center, that name is pretty much just straightforward letters, standard letters. We don't have a whole lot of decoration around it or anything. So in keeping in line with that, what we came up with yesterday and looking, if you look at the front of the building, the sign in the middle is getting faded, and that's a removable sign. So we think that would be the best place to actually go with this new sign honoring Bobby Scott. And we would do it with a white background and blue letters. It would be similar in size. Dimensions, we'd let the graphic design person set it up to where it's similar size to what Benny Monroe is. So I'm putting a width of 16 to 18 foot, depending on what the graphic designer comes up with. That would be similar to the Benny Monroe sign. And then if we do it 7 foot tall by 16, 18 foot wide, and then again have the Raider blue letters on a white background for that. And then we're kind of staying uniform with what we have for Benny Monroe as well. And that's what we believe. I don't have an artist rendition to you, but I was hoping if we keep it simple enough, that you'd be able to kind of see it in your mind.
Is that about the dimensions of that existing sign?
That actually is a little longer than that existing sign. That existing sign would probably be about 1.5 to 2 foot long on each side of that. And so
The picture was in a banner, was on the top of the roof, and a little concerned about that. For Sergoff, you had talked to me about it, and we had to brace to make sure to win. But David came down yesterday, and we'll go ahead and tell what we David. Hal sent me and David up there to measure the letters on the road side. He wouldn't go up there, but it was windy and it's kind of hard to do. But we think it's 15, 18 inches, but we're trying to get it, like you said, standard, and so it all looks good and everything. But that area right there is very visible, and David, wanted to make sure it's below the roof line, so you'll look at it straight in there. And those 2 C's on the side there, those are entrances going into the dressing area there. But Hal had a lot of good points. It might not be the raised letters like on Benny Monroe, but it would be the same size, because it's out. You always got to look at vandalism, and Hal's on top of that. That was one thing.
Or even just accidental. You have a bunch of hyped up young men coming out of a locker room, they're ready to go, and they're crowded together. I'm sure that they could bump into raised letters. So in this case, we could.
You know how when Benny Monroe, when we named the stadium for him, he was coaching at Ooltewah at the time, and then he was about to retire. And there were rumors all around about how he was going to go somewhere else and coach. And I told him that those letters were up there with Velcro. And they could come down.
That's right.
Well, and I think ultimately what this will allow us to do is Dr. has us reviewing our procedures right now. And I think I mentioned to him that this might be a good time to put a procedure in how we move forward in recognizing people, so that you as a board and us as a school system have a way that we make sure things are done, so we don't get things we don't necessarily want.
I like the uniformity of.
Yeah, the only difference, and David agreed to this, the Bobby Scott letters because, you only got 10 letters in Bobby Scott, and you got 11 in Benny Monroe, and you had a space in the middle there. But he agreed that Fieldhouse Park could be not as big as letter, right, David? Because you want Bobby Scott to stand out, where if you look at the home press box, Benny Monroe Stadium is all the same. And it's a little smaller area there, so Bobby Scott would be the bigger letters. Field, I don't just say they're 18-inch Bobby Scott, or maybe only 8 to 10 Fieldhouse, not what we talked about, David, because it's on the Fieldhouse, so David wanted to brought more attention than Bobby Scott. Am I right on that, David?
And my goal was, when you sit in those stands, you can see
You
his
see
name.
Bobby Scott. You know it's on the Fieldhouse.
That accomplishes that, so.
Yeah.
I'm very happy, by the way.
Yeah, good.
We had a great meeting yesterday. Thanks for coming down. We came down from Lenore City.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah, and then you're gonna put, so it would say Bobby Scott, and then underneath that Fieldhouse.
In these
probably.
smaller letters, probably.
Smaller letters. Yeah, that's
And we'll
gonna
look
be good.
nice.
You're gonna be able to see that.
Yeah.
Really well.
Yes.
Any other questions about it? I mean,
Will those standards become part of the branding packet that you guys have existing, or?
Well, we can do that easily, I think. But we are going to, TSBA, just quickly, sent us a packet of, just like we have policies come from TSBA, they send us model procedures. So now we're updating all of our procedures, so the procedures absolutely meet the board policy that you guys passed. And this is one of the areas that we can improve on, and that way we have standardization of all of our color schemes and all that, and everything it's written. We need to make sure it's written down.
back when Dr. Denny was here and Don was on the board, and gave us permission to do some things, but I always wanted to catch your eye, really look good and have a nice quality to it. I think we've done that.
Well, it was Dr. Yates, who had retired, who insisted that the Raider Field go underneath the Benny Monroe Stadium, because he called the school board and he said, that's Raider Field. If you just put Benny Monroe up there, they're gonna start calling, you've got the sportscasters and the people talking about the place where the game is played or whatever, and they won't know whether to call it Benny Monroe Field and so that's why we did the Benny Monroe Stadium and Raider Field, so it would be clear.
Right.
That they were two different names, so I think the Field House and Bobby Scott Field House, it's gonna look really good. Yeah.
Go ahead, Al.
All right. So we'll update you on the construction updates and where we are. We've, the last 2 weeks, we've been very active. As soon as school got out, we had things start occurring on that Monday, following the Friday we got out. The CHS sewer is underway. They'll be actually sawing into the floor on Monday at CHS, so we are underway. The west wing is blocked off. It's considered a construction site at this point. If you've been by the middle school, you will see that there's been a fence getting put up. That's for the road construction that will be occurring, that we've been told that by the time school starts, we should see. So we are putting a fence up to offer some protection to our students who, special needs students who have to come out in that area to keep them safe. At Cleveland High School, Stewart, Arnold, Ross, and Yates, all of the kitchen hoods that are being replaced have been, or the parts have been ordered. The contractors have put submittals in and ordered all those things. So that's a good thing, because it takes a while to get that equipment in. Also at Cleveland High School, Stewart, Arnold, and Ross, all dishwashers have been ordered. Again, that's a time process. Once you order them, you're waiting for them to get in. The company that has some of those dishwasher has already been in the schools. They've already started looking, so they're in the process of preparing to install those, remove the old dishwashers, install the new ones. A new soil table for CMS, which that's just the table. If you look at the middle school, there's a carousel there that's been there for 20 years. It's worn out. It's not really recommended anymore for schools, K through 12. So we're removing that and having to put a new table there where you put your trays on and then get moved back to the dishwasher. So that has been ordered, and that actually has to be custom built. If you've come by yesterday, they actually started the installation of a crosswalk safety equipment. That was done through a safety grant. So that's where that one comes from. By the way, the fencing was done with money that was provided by TDOT for that to the middle school for the purchase of the right-of-way and the leasing. So those two items are different. So they'll continue with that crosswalk. I'd say the rain has held us off a little bit today, but if you see them out there, that's what they're doing. It's gonna be similar to the one at Lee, so that we really get people's attention when the children are crossing the road there at the front high school, and we figured we needed that as many kids as do cross there. Candy's Creek, Mayfield, and Stewart canopies have all been started. They've dug through the concrete and poured concrete, so the canopies at those three schools have been started. The CHS canopy will get started next week. They'll be doing it on the out by Peerless Road. Stewart hallway floors. All of those floors have been taken up and the asbestos abatement has been done. So if you walk in there, there's just raw concrete floor right now. So now it's a matter of cleaning up all the plastic and starting to lay the floor down. So that will unfortunately take a lot longer than taking it up to. And then we move on to Blythe-Bauer floors. They're actually ahead of schedule. We were impressed with the work they've done. They have half of the classrooms right now are being used. The other half are not. And the ones that are not being used, they've already pulled all the tile in all those rooms up. And they're actually starting to lay tile already in those rooms. So we were happy with the progress they've made at Blythe-Bauer. One thing that we're running into that I do want to go ahead and mention to you as a school board, I felt like we needed to make you aware of. We're having constant delays, and if you watch the news, you see where everybody's having problems everywhere, whether it's cars, and car companies having to shut down production lines, delays for electronics, delays for construction, delays, for instance, on our sign, our scoreboard. So what I want to bring up to you is we're doing well. We intend on pushing as hard as we can to make sure that all these jobs get done in time to go back to school. But we have a tremendous amount of work going on, and there are some aspects of this that we're concerned about. Delays on electronics, delays on parts to build the dishwashers, to build the hoods. And we're in a different world right now coming out of COVID that we just want to make you aware of that, well, we'll push as hard as we can. We're all going to probably have to be patient as we get these projects done. And that's one thing with the ESSER funds and coming out of COVID, we're seeing is, we're having to bring kids and have kids in summer school, for instance, while we're doing construction projects. And that's going to make it harder on the principals and teachers and everybody involved to work together that way. We're going to have to work together in order to take advantage of these different ESSER funds and stuff. And I just want to make you aware because you may end up getting more complaints occasionally from parents that they're not able to use that playground, or this playground's been closed, or that area is harder for us with traffic. And I don't know any way around that if we're going to get these projects done, that we're not all going to have to be more patient with one another and work together. So just wanted to mention that to you. It's actually very positive. We're doing really well on the construction. I'm very happy where we are at this point. 2 weeks out of school, and we're moving right along. So, but thank you.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Statement and a question. Man, you guys do have a huge list, and progress you've made so far is amazing, considering all of the things that you mentioned with delays. So I'm assuming that because of that too, that there's no update on the scoreboard, right?
No, we're just still holding off, waiting on that.
So my question is, for the construction on that highway in front of CMS? 60,
Yes.
60, yes. Do we have any influence in when they're gonna be allowed to actually do construction, as far as, are they gonna start after school starts? And are they gonna be out there constructing during drop-off and during pickup? Does that make sense? And then I have a follow-up question after you answer that.
Okay. worked with them, with TDOT, and we've actually been working on that project, you know, ever since I've been here, and I started going to the meetings back then. And pretty much TDOT dictates to us. We have very little say as into what can be done without really having to go to our legislatures.
Okay.
They pretty well, we had some issues when we were trying to buy the Candy Creek property, and it was very evident then that they pretty much plan on being in control of the narrative.
Okay. So, I'm assuming that the city of Cleveland owned the traffic lights then, is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have any influence there? And here's why I ask. Because sitting in the traffic there on Highway 60, you know, traffic backs up. So people get a little impatient, and so they go around, go up to Crown Colony, do a turnaround in the driveway, and you have this huge backup. So is there anything that we can do with the city to fix that problem that exists with the current infrastructure, and it will be worse with the construction?
Right. The Cleveland Police Department on several occasions has actually sent officers up there. The problem is unless they stay there, and I think that's really where the issue is. We do have, they do listen, and we have had several conversations that I think the question is we're not sure how it gets solved. And I'm not, in talking to the traffic engineer with the city, it's a really difficult problem to solve.
Well, I have a suggestion since I've sat through it all year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Obviously, the people that turn there going up to the Crown Colony, even the police are sitting there, they do it. They're not breaking the law, so it's not really you can do about it from that perspective. However, if we do have influence with the city, particularly the traffic lights, I think that light that is facing Cleveland, make that light longer, then they'll stop doing it. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. And
Let your other traffic go in more. The problem is the neighborhoods in there, but they don't want them to turn around in their driveway.
No, and one of the issues, and I don't want to bore y'all, so I don't usually tell you the details of some things that, but one of the things you'll find probably is that cell phones are our number one problem. Because now when people get a light at the thing, instead of paying attention, even though there may be a hands-free, they watch, and our lights are activated by motion. So if we get a long break in between cars, the light thinks there's no more cars there. So some of the parents get distracted, they sit there, the cars pull up, they leave a big break, and now the light changes too quickly, and you leave a long traffic behind. And that's some of what's going on.
That is true.
And so we have people who are actually causing the very problem that's going on because they won't simply pay attention to what they're doing. And we have a law in place that says, please don't do that. And again, I'm not trying to be ugly, but that's the actual detail in talking to the traffic engineer and some officers about what's happening.
And I will say, I'm pretty sure the last city council meeting that Joe Fivas talked about, they're working on syncing the lights on one of the road structures, right? I can't remember exactly which one, but we can always turn that request in too, just to say, hey, can you take a look at this?
We can take a look,
time and study or whatever the case. It doesn't hurt to ask.
If that's a concern by the board, that carries a lot of weight, and so we can approach that again.
That'd be great, because there have been days where we've been late because we're sitting in traffic.
Yeah,
right.
It never hurts to ask.
So we can pursue that again.
I leave the house at 7:15, and I'm already by the interstate, so I'm out.
You're there, yeah. So absolutely. And we did move the buses. The city actually came in and helped us. Just as a reminder, you weren't here at the time, but the city came in and did actually extend that lane and made it wide enough so that we could get the buses out of the turn-in traffic the best possible and get them so that we could do some relief. So they were a big help in that and saved us quite a bit by doing that for us.
Did you have another question, Nate?
No.
I've got a question not related to that, but I was wondering, the Denning Center, the parking area in the back where people drop their kids off to go to swimming to the pool. And it sounds like we'll have that pool for a long time because there's no plans, I think, to have anything else in the city. If you pull in there to pick up a child or to drop a child off, you can't hardly get out because you have to back up that long thing. Is there any way that we can make that where you could circle around and go back out? I've experienced this myself several times driving off grandkids.
It used to be that way, and those trees are actually growing where the road used to go through. That was actually a road that was
That's
abandoned
what I
by the
thought,
city.
you did, yeah.
So that's it, and I think that that's a real possibility in the future.
Mhm.
I would think that the study that we're doing now, we probably want to let them finish
Mhm.
and move forward.
It's really kind of dangerous because you could get the car coming in behind you or kids, dropping kids off, you know, so it's really stressful.
Right.
One thing on the Denny Center, Brian told us yesterday, Don Chills has some back surgery. So we're kind of slowed down a little bit there, but it's still going along pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know when the surgery was, but Brian, did you know Don had some major back surgery, I think. One thing I do want to add, yesterday in Dr. Dyer, we had to get out of the way, but we had girls and boys down there practicing track. And we got some of the best kids and I'm so, I want to thank the rest of you for approving that for next year for getting the track done, because it needs it back.
It does.
It's awful. I mean,
It's in
but
bad
we
shape.
still got some of the best kids in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, the girls relay team.
Girls won the relay and
Exactly.
everything, but, and we talked to Lonnie White, Dr. Dyer and I did, and he understood, and he said, I think it's gonna be worth the wait and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for approving that for next school year.
Can't wait.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Al.
y'all.
Charlie, do you want to take a vote on the signage for the field house, or do you want to just get consensus? It's, you're the site chairman, you kind of direct us.
Consensus. Is anybody have any questions about where it's gonna be and how it's gonna be?
It's like everything's okay.
So we'll just go with that, everybody's good with that. We
Everybody
will
good with
reflect
that?
that in the minutes though, so that we, if we want to go back and say, well, they approved that.
Yeah.
Okay. Finish.
Yeah, and like I said, we just got rough stuff here. Once we get, we'll probably get all of them to talk to Brian Scoggins, Brian Sines, and he does a lot of this stuff. But he's got an idea on David, you were on board with everything we talked about yesterday.
So when you all get that, when you forward it to the
Yes.
board and let us all look at it.
How we've not done anything yet, right? I mean, because I left Brian a message. I'll probably call all of them, get all of them to call Brian Scoggins and get a rough picture off of them before we put it up.
Right, well, you will try to get a graphic.
Yeah.
Design.
We have to approve all the graphics anyway, so.
And later on, and David brought this up, maybe August or September, you know, just briefly, I'd like to have Coach Scott and his wife come and they kind of want to thank us, what you said, David, and, you know, later on, maybe when we get close to putting that up or something.
Maybe when we meet, are we gonna meet at the high school in the fall, Julie? Are you working on the lunches for the, well, if we're gonna, maybe one time at lunchtime that we could meet them over there and we're having our lunch at Cleveland High School. And then get the picture beside the field house with Bobby Scott and his wife.
Maybe just one
David,
to come sometime.
and anybody else that needs to be there.
Is Bill Talley still alive?
Yeah, we passed. Did everybody get their book today? I think the one.
Yes,
Don't
that
get
was
that time to read it, it's brief. I think it was 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, it passed. And George Starr, the ones that got a book, I told you, George is Lamar McKenzie and Alan Jones kind of helped George do that. But in the front of the book there, he wanted to thank everybody because some of you said they wanted. I called George and I said, you know, they'd like to buy some books. He said, no, Charlie, I'll give them whatever they want. Just for
Tell him
free.
thank you, I appreciate it, I've enjoyed
But he
it.
put a little note inside of your book if you haven't read it yet.
I looked here at the simple office.
Yeah, Julie gave them out if you requested.
I can't remember, I didn't know.
I think we had 5 or 6, I can't remember what it was.
Okay, I got one.
Is that it, Charlie?
No, good.
Okay, thank you. Well, we might as well just stay with all this rain.
Yeah, go anywhere.
We can take a nap, you got a place to go now.
Well, I got some other meetings, but he's got a copy class. I do not.
Board, anybody have
I
anything
just,
else?
I want you all to know that I had my first state board meeting this weekend in Nashville.
Okay.
In person, in person.
Safe travels.
TSBA board usually is about 18 to 20 people, and they're from all over the state. You just, and you've done this before in a different capacity, but it's so much fun to mingle with board members from across the state. Bring up school support organizations and
And thank you, Lynn, for coming today.
Is that what you say?
I should be here, not sitting in my office looking at Zoom.
Right, right.
Anything else, Kristen?
I was just wondering, and it might be the timing that I'm off on, but when will we find out about our new representative?
June.
In June, they
I thought it
are
was
finishing
before
interviews.
August, but
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I was wondering.
I'll send you that.
They were a little behind, Autumn told me, just with all the goings on, graduation and all that kind of stuff. So when she was here for our last board meeting, she said, we haven't even started the process.
I just want to say that the banner coverage of all the graduates, I think the schools was very good.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it too.
Oh, and the video, I love the video, that was very cute. The video, you see on the, what a big time. I laughed because I thought, you graduate from high school and you are on the top of the world. And then in August, when you haven't left for college yet, and you go back to visit your high school, everybody looks at you like, what are you doing here? You kind of fall to the bottom.
You do.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that happens in a hurry.
Anybody, anything else?
Kelly, the personnel part, the window attachment this time, I always,
I don't know why, but I'll find out.
okay.
I have
Read
I
that.
have the same question.
Huh?
That's
There
not
wasn't nothing
mine.
on it.
Yeah, mine got it.
Mine didn't either.
I didn't either, 'cause I usually see who's resigned or retired or.
We'll get you one.
Okay.
And I remember,
Yeah, he's on remember.
Who else got it? I didn't get it. Mine.
I got mine.
I just don't see it on.
Tom, did you get it? Carol, Krista got it. Nate, did you get yours? Me and Krista got it.
That's interesting. Technology lives somewhere.
All right.
We'll get it to you.
All right, just kind of curious.
We
All
have
right. We will adjourn by general consent. Thank you.
Yeah, I got one.
it. Yeah.